interesting that you say that, because when you say that, it makes me think of, I have clients that I work with where that happens with their adult children, where they have adult
Mm,
children and they, well, I'm mom, and so I need to pay my son's gambling debts, and that, once again, that idea, that thought of, well, they're an adult, and when I was a high school teacher, I would deal with this all the time, even with parents, like, I don't know, what do I do with the kid? And that even though they're a teenager, you got to start to have them make their own mistakes and deal with the consequences and not bail them out, and then continuing that even as when they're adults. And it goes back, I'm sure you've heard the saying about, in the airplane, you put your mask on first before you assist other people, because if you're passed out, you can't help anybody. If you're tapped out, you can't help anybody. And so, again, taking care of yourself so you can take care of others.
thank you, and welcome back to the Her Money podcast. It's a while since I have been putting out episodes on a consistent basis, and I want to thank you for coming back, and I want to apologize for going silent. It's been some really crazy times for me, and it's been a wild ride, but I am happy to be back. And actually, I shouldn't say I am happy to be back. I should say that we are happy to be back because I'm going to be joined for the coming seasons with a new co host, Mandy Hering. And I am absolutely delighted and excited for you guys to meet her. But before I formally introduce her to you, though, if you listen to some previous episodes, you heard her talk about her experience with her daughter. I just really want to kind of let you know what you can expect going forward. So going forward, we're going to actually run things in seasons, and I've been a podcast host for a while. Seasons just seem to work better because you know that there's a beginning and an end, and instead of me just disappearing for a while. So you can know that we're going to be running things in seasons. So we'll tell you when the season is ending, we'll tell you when the next season is going to start. And I think that'll be really great for your listening experience. In addition to that, we're going to continue in the interview format that we have had. People like it. I like it. It's easy to do. And I think that we will continue going forward with that. But we are going to expand the topics that we talk about beyond the 5Ds. We're going to be talking about money mindsets. I have expertise. Mandy has expertise. We'll actually do some interviews where I talk about her other outside expertise and just introduce you to some other things that you need to know as a woman who is handling her money on how to navigate different sections. In addition to that, we'll just be exploring different topics from the 5Ds and others from just different perspectives from various different women that we come across, as well as we'll just continue to dive in and tell more of the stories of women who are going through something, just so that you can have that experience and hear what other women are up to so that you know that you are not alone. So I am really excited, really delighted to introduce you to my new co-host, Mandy Hering. So let me tell you about her and why I invited her to be part of this. Well, first and foremost, Mandy is somebody that I work with in my professional career. But what I really like about Mandy is, first and foremost, she is smart, she is caring, and she's really able to take, some of the complex topics that we talk about in personal finance and really bring them down to something that's accessible and something that is engaging. And so for that reason, I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to my new co-host, Mandy Hering. Mandy,
Thank you,
hello.
Felicia. Oh, thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction. It's sometimes hard to hear that about yourself, but then, it's great to hear that too. So I'm so honored that you have invited me here to be part of this, which I think is, I feel like that this is really a great way for, like you were saying, I have a passion for taking complex issues and making it understandable, making it accessible to as many people as possible. I think women in particular, we have so much power. And I think sometimes we'll talk today about how we kind of stifle ourselves. And so, what really inspired me to be part of this podcast was I really love the idea of inspiring people to action through story. And so, I'm so excited to introduce you to some of my friends and learn. And so, you and our listeners can learn about their stories and continue to share my story and my expertise. So, I'm just really, really excited to be here and be part of this new adventure.
All right. So when Mandy and I were thinking about how we are going to roll this out, what I thought I would do is I would go back to a previous episode, and then we would share our thoughts and how we would expand the topic that I talked about. So in the show notes, you will find a link to a episode that I did before, which is the 3 ways that women hold themselves back with their financial mindset. So that's what we're going to talk about. And there were really 3 things. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give you, I'm going to.
I think like first, so we're going to go through the clip. So we're going to show you the first part of the clip and then we're going to talk about it. So let's watch the clip.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to we're going to show you the clip from the previous episode, and then me and Mandy are going to talk about that clip. So, all right. So in that episode, we were talking about the lies that women tell ourselves. So we talked about, being greedy. We talked about being crazy, and we talked about, what was the third thing, Mandy?
Lazy. Being lazy.
Yeah. So thoughts with me about that particular section of the clip.
This really spoke to me, and actually, this is why I asked you if we could do this clip or this episode because it really spoke to me because oftentimes we look at external factors that affect our financial situation, and we can't really control a lot of those external factors. What we can control is how we respond to, and I know that I'm guilty of messing my own self up. I know I've called myself lazy, like, oh, am I being lazy right now? I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And I was actually just having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was saying, oh, I know I should, should. And I was like, hey, can I give you some coaching? And she's like, yes. I was like, no, should. And she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. She said an old lady that she was selling something to on Facebook, she was doing the same thing with her. And the lady said to her, quit shooting on yourself. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm stealing that statement. Quit shooting on yourself. It's like, there's enough going on in the world. Why are we adding it to ourselves? So I just, that section just really spoke to me, especially with, putting on ourselves that we're lazy or putting on ourselves that we're crazy. And then the other end of it, like then when you do, live a life you love and buy something that you want to buy, then you have the regret of, oh, am I being greedy? So, all 3 of those really spoke to me.
Yeah, it's funny that you should say that. I mean, it's funny. Sometimes I create stuff and then I walk away from it, so I forget that I created something. But I was just like, yeah, I see that all the time with the women that I work with, that we get down on ourselves about various different things. The one that spoke to me this time when I was rewatching the clip is the one about being greedy. Oftentimes as women, we're the caretakers for our family, and so we are often the last person on our list. We'll take care of our kids. We'll take care of our house. We'll take care of our husbands. We'll take care of it. And the list goes on. And then when we try to do something for ourselves, our mindset sometimes will be in the background, just kind of talking to us about how that we should, it's going back to what you were just talking about. We should be doing this in order, rather than taking care of ourselves. And I just want to give everybody permission today that today is the day that you can do something for yourself, and you don't need to listen to that voice in your head that says that everybody else should come first.
Yeah, and that's it. We talked about this and when you interviewed me about the importance of taking care of yourself, and especially if you're a caregiver, like we were just talking about, that taking care of yourself makes you a better caregiver.
All right, so we just watched a clip that I recorded previously about mental triggers and the mental triggers conversation land for you, man.
Yeah, that one is, about doing stuff against our own interest. And so that theme kind of comes back again about there's enough external forces out there. And so I think that having a plan is helpful. And oftentimes we go against our own self-interest because we just get in survival mode and just look at what's right in front of us and just deal with that. And then afterwards you feel like, if I just would have taken a beat, taken a breath and really looked at the situation, I would have acted more in my self-interest and in the overall long-term interest. And so, that was what spoke to me in that part.
What I'm reminded of is different people that I've met in the past as part of my practice, and something would happen in their lives, and then they would go shopping, or something else would happen in their lives. I mean, I do it through eating. When mental triggers happen for me, I often will eat my way to feeling better. You know what I'm saying? But on the other hand, I do see lots of women that I've met over the years who have mental triggers that they respond to by spending money that they shouldn't. Shouldn't is not the word I should be using, but the money that when spending the money is against their best interests. And so I'm just really reminded of that because I had a client in the past who ended up, what was happening for her is she had a mental trigger as far as that she should be taking care of her family. She was the most successful in her family, and she kind of became the family ATM in this particular regard. And so for her, the which kind of ties into the next conversation, is she had an expectation, and actually her family had an expectation that she was supposed to take care of them because she was the most successful. And for her, she would do things like pay for people's car notes or pay for their rent or pay for, whatever it is that they needed. And when we looked at it at one particular time, and this is kind of an extreme example, she had spent about $30,000 in a year taking care of her other family members because of the mental trigger of I need to take care of them. I'm the successful one. I'm whatever that is for her. So again, these mental triggers can be very detrimental to our own self-interest. And I think it's really important that we take the time to think about and take, as you said, take a beat and really look at how the mental triggers are affecting your finances.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because when you say that, it makes me think of I have clients that I work with where that happens with their adult children, where they have adult
Mm.
children and I'm mom, and so I need to pay my son's gambling debts, and that once again that idea that thought of, well, they're an adult, and when I was a high school teacher I would deal with this all the time, even with parents, like, I don't know, what do I do with the kid? And that even though they're a teenager, you got to start to have them make their own mistakes and deal with the consequences and not bail them out, and then continuing that even as when they're adults. And it goes back, I'm sure you've heard the saying about, in the airplane, you put your mask on first before you assist other people, because if you're passed out, you can't help anybody. If you're tapped out, you can't help anybody. And so Again, taking care of yourself so you can take care of others.
Absolutely. And so the next thing, here's the clip from the next section of it, where we're talking about mental health, head trash. All right, so mental health, head trash. This is really one of the most detrimental things that happen because it's unconscious. You don't even always understand why you do things that you do. And so this is one of those things that you and I see all the time. And it's one of those things that I was just like, what's going on? When I'm working with them, when I'm coaching them, I'm thinking to myself, what is going on in their mind that have them make the decision that they did? And oftentimes it's mental health trash. How's it shown up for you when you've been working with people?
Oh, I see it a lot with people in their family dynamics
Mm,
when where they say something and I ask them, oh, well, where did that come from? And oftentimes they're kind of taken aback, like, well, no, it's just normal thinking. And as we dig a little deeper, it's like, oh, well, in my household growing up, this was, you don't have nice things, or, they always, would criticize other people that had nice things. And so I feel like I can't have nice things. And I didn't even think about that, where that's where it comes from. And or community, same thing. When you mentioned community, I was like, oh, you just think about the social group you're in, or in social media, not even everyday life, but social media, and how that creates these mental head trash that you don't even think about it because it's subconscious. You're just bombarded with it all the time. So,
yeah, it's like social media, I mean, I could go on my little soap opera with social media, but it's so, I mean, you see in the pictures people living this fabulous lifestyle that many of us aspire to. It's just like, well, they're doing this and they're doing that and they're doing this. And one of the things that you and I both know, because we look under the hood at people's finances, is how they show up in pictures can be very, very different from how their finances are. It's just like, it's the whole concept, or sometimes it's the concept of trying to show that you are doing as well or better than the Joneses. And places like Instagram is really a great place for people to kind of show you, this is my fabulous life. But if you look at their finances, and that's what you and I will do as money girls, is we're going to look at people's finances and see that sometimes the images that they're showing is not really consistent with their finances. So I think that that's a really important aspect. And I think the thing that is really important is you don't know what you don't know. So we talk about in some of the presentations that we talk about, is we talk about there's this whole world of information about personal finances. And there's a section of it of the things that you know. And then there's a section of the things that you don't know. But there's this whole other category, which is much larger than the other two, which is the stuff that you don't even know that you don't know. And I say this mental head trash stuff is stuff that you don't even know that you don't know. And I was talking to somebody the other day and I was asking them, well, how do you know such and such? And they were just like, and they were just stopped. And I was just like, because here's the thing, you can't get to all the unconscious biases that you might have and the unconscious head trash from what you know, because it's invisible to you already. So you can't get there from what you know or what you don't know. It's just invisible. So working with people like ourselves, sometimes we can reveal and see and help people see some of that unconscious head trash and mental head trash that they're experiencing. Because it's easy for us to see on the outside, but it's much harder for you. It's almost impossible for you to get to on your own.
yeah, that's great because, yeah, we have a lens where we are looking at, okay, where is this coming from? because we are thinking about the behavioral part of it. And so I think that's a really important point is, that there are things that you can do for yourself, but it's also important to get other people with expertise to help you. And, the importance of having a coach or having somebody else to get that perspective for you, because we do get stuck in our own head trash. And to get someone to kind of challenge you and really think about, okay, well, where is that coming from? And being open to that too. That takes work too, is to be open to really looking at where is this coming from, to get to a place of improvement.
Absolutely. So, as an introduction, what we really wanted to do is we wanted to give you not just my voice, but we wanted to give you Mandy's voice, as well as to just kind of reintroduce as we are relaunching our podcast and tying it back to our other episode, and just giving you a sense of what you can expect going forward. So, Mandy, how would you summarize what we talked about today?
Yeah, I think, first of all, when we talk about lies that we tell ourselves, I think the important thing here is to give ourselves a break. There's a lot of external factors, so give yourself a break and acknowledge what this is. I'm creating this for myself, and acknowledging that. And then going into the mental triggers, then, and stop and think, take a beat. Is this in my best interest? And once again, that's not being selfish. That if you're doing stuff in your best interest, then you can better serve others. And then lastly, with the mental head trash of, that's where we can look outside of ourselves and say, okay, where can I get help for this? And can I be open to looking at something differently, and looking for what do I don't know that I don't know, and who can help me with that, and expand our knowledge that way. So I think that there's lots of things that we can do for ourselves, and I'm really excited to hear some stories and introduce you to some of my friends, and really dive into these things, and hopefully inspire you guys to um, take a look at that and how you can take care of yourself and not shit on yourself, and get that coaching.
Got it. So this is where we would put in that outro. Do you want to invite people to listen to the next episode? That's one of the things I would normally put here.
Oh, yeah, and make that part of my conclusion here.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to take on this new adventure as having your two co-hosts here for the Her Money Story podcast. If you'd like to hear more about me and Felicia, please go to hermoneystorypodcast.com. Please write us a review, and we look forward to seeing you in future episodes.